So, does being unbiased help or hinder in life? So, one of the things that I am somewhat conscious of is this idea of confirmation bias, and possibly to a fault, because rather than maybe always saying, do I feel that this is true, I might say internally, my mind might be saying, why is this not true? Like if somebody makes a statement to me, my first reaction might be to think, why might that not be true? Or even if I'm saying a statement to somebody else about something, I might be thinking of all the reasons why it wouldn't actually be true or completely true. So this tends to not be helpful in sales. Now, maybe there's a way to harness it in sales to where it helps you address like people's objections, or to come across in an unbiased manner. So there might be a way to harness it, but in general, I think in sales you're trying to convey, sort of like have a transfer of belief. So the belief of the salesperson, he or she is working to make that also the belief of the person on the other end of the sales conversation. So if the salesperson themselves is having doubts or is having, mental caveats, then that may not be helpful. So in terms of bias, one of the things I think about is confirmation bias, and how easy it is to want something to be true and then go in search of the evidence to support that. And possibly no more so, possibly there's been no better time in the world for confirmation bias than now, because if pretty much anything you believe, you can find someone on the internet to back you up. So it kind of gives you a sort of a free-for-all of being theoretically, to research and be correct based on your research, but you can select sort of the research that you pay attention to. One of the areas I think about, this being the case is in the area of like health and diet and things like that. Pretty much I could pretty much come up with any random I think fat is really good for me and carbs are not. And I go online and I can find someone to support my belief in that. And I can do the exact opposite, be like, I think carbs are good for me. I feel like carbs are good for me. I feel good on carbs when I eat carbs, but not when I eat fat. So therefore, I think carbs must be better for me. I can go online and almost certainly find someone who agrees with me on that statement. I can probably go right now and find someone who believes that, building muscle mass on a low carb diet is the way to go, and someone who believes that building muscle mass on a high carb diet is the way to go. So, and then that's just like health and wellness and whatever. That's just one little snippet. And then there's spirituality, and there's politics, and consumer brands even. Just there's such a variety of things where when you have an emotional bent in one direction, that you can go out and find the confirmation for it. In sales, what's kind of interesting about that is that, or in marketing, is first of all the question, how can you get somebody emotionally bent towards your product? Because if they're emotionally bent towards it, then you just have to provide them with sort of sufficient justification for it, right? Because once you're emotionally set in a certain direction, then you're just looking for data points that support what you want to do, right? Justification. And then but if someone comes to you and their bent has already been set, and now they're just looking for justification, how do you work with that also? Whether their bent is towards your product or whether the bent is away from your product. So on the whole, even though our access to information is tremendously, there's so much information available, and even though most of us think we're probably less biased than average, then I think most of us are very subject to shaping our beliefs and our actions around our preferences rather than the other way around.